On today's show, we discuss how the Ottawa Senators should approach the rest of the preseason.
And we have a SensCentral Citizen. Today, it's Clark Tyler. Clark tells us about how Jason Spezza turned him into an Ottawa Senators fan, gives us a hot take and an X factor for this season.
All that plus back to our organizational value rankings, we are officially into the top 10. That and more on today's Locked On Sens.
I'm Jake Sanderson.
I'm Tim Stützle, and you're listening to the Locked On Senators podcast.
You're Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome! You are locked on to the Ottawa Senators, the only daily podcast covering the Sens. On the outskirts of enemy territory, I'm Ross Levitan, alongside Brandon Piller up in the Blue Mountains. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. You can also follow the show on social media. We're at SensCentral on Twitter, LockedOn.Senators on Instagram. The show is free and available everywhere you get podcasts, including on YouTube. Today is Thursday, October 3rd, and Pilsy, a lot of headwear discussion on today's show. Linus Ullmark debuting a new mask already, and Tim Stützle is back at practice wearing a tinted visor.
Yeah, definitely a couple new looks. Linus Ullmark, come on. You got to release the prints and the designs of the mask before just wearing it. Let us know about it before you just shock us with a new shiny mask. I don't think it's as nice as the first one, but the shine to it certainly is something cool. And then the tinted visor with Timmy, that's obviously not a good thing health-wise, but it does look kind of cool.
So the thing, let's start with Tim Stützle. It's a goalie-friendly show, and actually, I'll put my tinfoil hat on briefly. Is there a third jersey coming this year that's got a little shine to it? Maybe Linus Ullmark getting ready for that. I don't know, because there's no way he's done with the Martian already after 2 games, like two preseason game and a half.
Yeah,
so
no,
I'm not buying that. So with Tim Stützle though, and there's some backstory to this. Pilsy mentioning health a lot of times, and it's actually in the NHL rulebook that you need to have a doctor's note for a tinted visor because of headaches, sensitivity to light, that sort of thing. David Perron, perfect example, had concussion problems earlier in his career. He still wears the tinted visor, did for a long time. I'm not sure if he still is. Does he? David
I think
Perron?
so.
Yeah, I think so. So Quentin Byfield was just on 32 Thoughts with our friend Kyle Bukauskas and Elliot Friedman, and he said that he had a head injury last year, and when he went to go to the doctor, he wanted the tinted visor. He wanted it for the style, and even though it was a minor injury, it was enough that he was able to get that go-ahead and that it wasn't going to be enforced otherwise. So hopefully Tim Stützle just listens to 32 Thoughts and found a way to get himself a little more style out there. But you got to be nervous at the same time after the chicken wing headshot he took from Arbor Jackeye that maybe he's not 100%.
Yeah, I'm sure he's not 100%, Ross. I mean, he didn't come back into the game after that, right?
Are you a doctor?
I'm not a doctor, no. But I am a chicken farmer, so I can identify a chicken wing when I see one. And that Arbor Jackeye hit was certainly a chicken wing. But I don't think it's anything serious. I think it's more of a precaution, preventative type thing rather than let's raise alarm bells and hit the panic button type thing.
So we're not worried.
No, I'm not worried. I've maintained I'm not worried about anyone's health.
Okay.
Not worried.
Per Bruce Garriock, Tim Stützle is between Brady Tkachuk and Claude Giroux today at practice. A lot of other rotations happening, but what do you think about this line? It might be the first time that we've seen it so far in camp. Josh Norris with Ridley Gregg and Drake Batherson.
Yeah, that's interesting, Ross. But I actually found that interesting more because of what it makes the third line. Now, Highmore is there, assuming that's a placeholder for Perron, who's not there, because a third line of Perron, Pinto, and Amadio, you got some juice on that third line. So I kind of like that. But having Ridley Gregg on that second line kind of balances things out and allows you to spread the offensive wealth into the bottom 6, which I think is great. And yeah, keeping Norris and Batherson, that makes sense. And Oh, man. Habs and Leafs fans must be stoked to see that Ridley Gregg isn't going to get more time on ice, because whenever he comes to town, they love it. It's the Ridley Gregg Friendship Tour.
And it will continue in Detroit, of all places, tomorrow. And it brings us to how to handle the final 2 games of this preseason. At Detroit Friday, in Ottawa on Saturday night. And I hate to say this because the good people of Ottawa deserve a good roster. But if I'm the Ottawa Senators, tomorrow is, in all intensive purposes, the final preseason game. This is where you have your final roster battles and everything else. And then you call up half of the guys you already sent down to play in that game Saturday. I think Hayden Hodgson should be back up for that game. I think Donovan Sabrango should be up for that game. I would not be playing anyone in my top 6. I just think, one, a lot of teams are only playing 6 preseason games. With the Kraft Hockeyville game, Ottawa with an extra one, they're already up there at 7. There's nothing positive that could come out of another game against the Habs. That means absolutely nothing.
So is this theory, Ross, strictly based on the opponent they're playing? That's the majority of it?
That's the majority of it, absolutely, okay. And based on what transpired the other night. But it's almost equal parts, just you're done. Like, it's a back-to-back. You're not going to play these guys in back-to-back games with travel in the preseason.
Yeah, there's no point in that. That's fair. Yeah, you know what? I'm with you. Other than the fact that it sucks that that's a home game and you're not bringing the A players, but you're going to get 41 games of the star players at the CTC with lots of fun promotional nights as well.
Starting a week tonight against the Florida Panthers. So that's my theory, and I was speaking with Bruce Garriock yesterday. He thinks that's the case as well. Nice. Belleville Sens training camp is underway. I don't think they have any preseason, so just load up a bus. Like, let's get Oscar Pettersson into a preseason game. He didn't get one yet. Let's get Tyler Boucher another look. Like, I'm not joking around at all here. I think the 4 centermen in the game against the Habs should be Ostapchuk, Yannick, Gaudette, and Halliday. Those should be your 4 centers. I don't want to see anybody in the top 3. Stützle, Norris, Pinto cannot be playing in that game. So
and
I think
Tokarski starts in net.
Plays the whole 60 minutes. And honestly, if he plays well, give him a contract, because I think that he could help Belleville as a veteran stabilizer. And we know that the AHL goalie carousel has been spinning in Belleville. 2 years ago, they had 10 different goalies play a game for them?
Yeah, it's nuts. It's
so
crazy.
Right now, they're going in with 23-year-old Matt Sogard, 22-year-old Levi Merilainen, and 20-year-old Michael Simpson. That's your goaltending depth in Belleville. I think having a 32-year-old Dustin Tokarski would be a benefit to the Belleville Sens, and he could almost be a bit of a goalie coach / mentor to those young guys at the same time, because even though he hasn't played a whole lot in the NHL recently, he's still a guy with a resume that includes 80 National Hockey League games and 10 years in pro hockey.
And Ross, especially when you're starting the season off with both Levy and Mads not being at 100% health. Like, you want to have a veteran guy that if he does have to step in at the start of the season, he's there. And Tokarski's veteran enough that he's not looking at this as like a chance to make the NHL and, parachute his career. I think he could look at this as, hey, I've got a contract and I'm going to play games here and there. I'm going to be a third goalie in the AHL and I'm going to play as needed. And I think that's probably fine for him.
All right, we'll see what transpires there. One of 2 professional tryouts remaining. The other is Kalen Addison, who at practice this morning was on a pair that just kind of rotated, it seems, with, I believe it was...
Hamonic and JBD.
Thank you. And then you have Carter Yakimchuk with Tyler Clevin. So, as Steve Staios mentioned on Locked On Sens yesterday, these are the conversations that they're having where it's like, is he going to play with Clevin, or are you going to put a veteran? Jake Sanderson's 2 years older than him?
He's got the mind of a veteran. Yeah,
he does, and the skill of a veteran player. But you put him with a stabilizer or a guy who is an everyday top 4 defenseman. Going to be fascinating to watch that as camp continues. Tomorrow, we will get into what the remaining battles are, because that's going into the final 2 games. And even though I'm saying don't dress the big dogs on Saturday, that doesn't mean that the 4th line center position's wrapped up tomorrow. I think that you do play back-to-back games for Goddad, Ostapchuk, and Yannick. Those are the three guys who I think up front are battling for one spot, unless Zach McEwen gets cut, which I wouldn't be that upset because he hasn't really done a whole lot either. But it's going to be fascinating to see how this all plays out over the course of the next 72 hours or so. Following that last preseason game, we expect final cuts, and then the Senators' entire roster will be on the ice for 3 days of practice before the home opener on October 10th and the GLEBE Central Pub Shuttle. As I warned you time and time again, it has sold out. Blair just sent me the message today. 94 tickets sold, Pilsy. We've got 2 busfuls rolling over to the CTC, and I cannot wait for it.
I'm glad people took our advice, and the bus is an absolute blast. Going there, you're just filled with so much excitement, and then coming off a win, going back to the GLEBE Central Pub will be great too.
And even if they lose, it's still the vibe. You can't lose the home opener night. You can't.
Ross, you and I are going to be boots on the ground there.
What's our boots on the ground record in Canada?
14-0-1. They simply
Minnesota.
do not lose when we are boots on the ground in regulation in Canada.
And they were even up in the third period. The one overtime loss was the Chris Neil jersey retirement night where Patty Kane, in like his last game in Chicago, had to tie the game and then win the game, because without Patty Kane, the Sens are good against Chicago, right?
No, they're not. Chicago Blackhawks might be my ultimate arch nemesis when it comes to Sens.
As I'm wearing a Bears sweater. Sorry.
Unbelievable. Although I do love the city of Chicago. The city of Chicago.
Was that a Freudian slip? My goodness.
It might have been. No, it's a great city.
We got it. When are they in Chicago this year? Senators.
I'm not going. You're going to try to send me to that game? I'm not going.
March 5th.
No.
Early birthday present for you.
No, can't do it. Busy.
All expenses paid trip to Chicago, and you're like, nah, I'm good. Thanks.
I swore I would never go see the Senators play the Chicago Blackhawks in Chicago again, and I'm sticking to it.
I'm glad you changed that from going to Chicago, because you did go to Chicago again afterwards.
And I loved it, but I will not be visiting the United Center when the Ottawa Senators are there.
The city of Chicago. Amazing. All right, we've got Southern Ontario Sens fan coming up. We got Clark Tyler from Wine Valley. Can we call it? Is it even a valley? I don't think it's a valley.
Wine country.
Wine country. Awesome conversation coming up with Clark, and then we'll wrap up today's show with 3 more on our organizational value rankings. We are getting so close to the top tier where there is a contentious narrative building. That's all next. You're listening to Locked On Senators, your team every day.
Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Mary J's. Mary J's is a locally owned cannabis dispensary in the Ottawa area. 3 best friends wanted to go for their dreams, and through hard work and dedication, they got 4 stores in Ottawa. So you can check them out at Riverside South, Orleans, Greeley, and Russell. Mary J's has the best and newest products in the market, and they're adding new stuff to the menu every single week to keep it fresh. They have competitive pricing. In fact, they're going to price match any store in Ottawa, guys. That means you're guaranteed to get the best price around when you go to Mary J's. And they got great customer service. The bud tenders there are always ready to help you out. In fact, one of the owners, Dashi, absolute beauty. He's a diehard Sens fan. So go to one of the stores, say what up to Dashi, pick his brain about the Sens, and chat about all the latest, greatest products that Mary J's has to offer, and check out their website and get yourself a loyalty card. Check it out today, guys. Mary J's Dispensary.
Can't wait to swing by the Orleans or Riverside South locations when we get to Ottawa. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sports book. Our friends over at FanDuel have you covered to make every moment more. And I'm looking right now at some NHL futures. And you know what? I've actually got a bit of a qualm with the FanDuel Sportsbook. You know why?
Let's hear it.
It is so uncertain what the Ottawa Senators will do. They do not have a points over under for the Ottawa Senators right now. It is unavailable. Every other team, 31 out of 32 teams, you can go have your say over or under. but that's how polarizing the Ottawa Senators are.
Because they're waiting to see whether Carter Yakimchuk makes the team or not. That's going to have a big swing.
Well, if you want to have a big swing, how about plus 5,000 for the Sens to win the President's Trophy?
Ooh, I like it.
Oh, man. Or how about you can have some fun things like who's going to lead the league in shots on goal? Here's one, plus 800 for Brady Tkachuk.
That's good odds, actually.
I like that over at FanDuel. Our friends over at FanDuel will get you started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's all over at FanDuel.com. All right, we now welcome on this week's SensCentral Citizen. We are going to the heart of enemy territory where we find Clark Tyler. You can find him on social media at Canadian_Yeti_. Fella, welcome to the pod. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. Excited to be here, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Good timing after last night's game. What were your emotions watching that deteriorate into a debacle?
Panic in the first period and a bit, and then started to get the legs underneath them. Felt good, especially that power play. The 5 minute just like totally kick-started. It gave him rejuvenation in life, and it feels a little better after watching that second half of the game.
Now, where do you land on preseason games? This has been a hot topic among fans, media, everything. Do you think they've got the right amount of preseason games? Do you think you got to shorten it, just have games with less NHL players to shorten all the injury concerns that are happening? Where do you land?
Yeah, it's tough because you really hate to see like the profile of players that have gone down. It's tough. I mean, it's good to have a few games at least, get the feet underneath you, get the boots going. But, you know, this is not 1980, 1990, where players are coming in out of, into camp to get in shape. They're coming in very much in shape. So, I mean, it'd help if you have a new coach like with Green, new systems and everything going in. But if we can go shorten it down to 4, 5 games, there's not many players that are fighting for spots or teams that have spots open for 2 ways or anything. So 4 or 5 games tops. Like, you don't need the 7, 8, whatever it is.
Let alone when you're playing division rivals multiple times. I know the Sens have a game in between against Detroit, but like Montreal's next game is against Ottawa again. So I'm sure things will be very calm, very cool, very collected. But Clark, I want to rewind the clock all the way back. You got the Sens hoodie on, you got the Sens hat. You're telling us you're in Southern Ontario. What's the backstory? How'd you become an Ottawa Senators fan?
So growing up in Mississauga, the then Mississauga Ice Dogs, which became the Niagara Ice Dongs. I was a big Spezza fan back in the day. And, I was always back and forth between a bit of like, don't hate me, Leafs and Sens. I always admired Sundin. My grandfather or great uncle was George Armstrong. But I just loved the Sens of the late 90s, early 2000s. So when Spezza was drafted there, 01, second overall, it's all right, giddy up. Let's get a Sens jersey. I had the nice old goth jersey. It's framed with, it's almost like the Vancouver outdoor game jersey you have there, Ross, where it's got, this is framed with some mustard, some beer stains, Spezza autograph on the back. Like this has war stories to it.
Yeah. That's awesome.
A nice jersey, though. It's almost a shame that it's so easy to.
Yeah, it's fan worn, not game worn. But growing up in Toronto, Mississauga, it's tough. Like, graduated in 07 from high school. We had this thing called Wondergrad, and I was driving my grandfather's white Buick at the time with a Sens flag hanging off of it. I came back to find the hood of my car had Quack keyed in the hood of it because we were playing Ducks in the finals there in 07. Lots of bets with teachers along the way of having to wear this jersey, that jersey, having fun things along the way. But it's you got to pick your spots in Leafland.
So I love Sens fans that grew up Leaf fan adjacent and in Leaf household. So I love hearing the story. Like, when was that moment? I know you talked about Spezza being drafted, but like one day you got the Leaf gear with your family, and then the next day you just have a Sens jersey magically. Like, how did that transition happen?
Well, had a Sundin jersey young just because my parents I guess they thought I'd just be a Leafs fans. And I mean, I've strayed off in many different directions with sports and life, but I just said, hey, I'm out of here. I want to be the black sheep. I go to Ottawa every year with my dad and another father-son for Leafs and Sens games. We've done it for like 20, 22 years now. So it's a good way to have a little family and friend tradition to do those things. But yeah, I still have that Sunday jersey. Not going to lie. It is autographed. I got it. We used to stay at the Brook Street. So I got that autographed, and his 500th game ticket got autographed too. Sorry, 500th goal. Nice. So yeah, it's gone. I'm a Sens fan, obviously, but
well, just looking, you could make a few bucks on online if you want to sell that jersey on eBay.
There you go.
Easily could. Yeah, I have enough Sens jerseys in closet. So
we always like doing a bit of nostalgia before we get into to the current team. And you mentioned Jason Spezza coming over. Fond memories, I'd imagine, of the pizza line, or what era of Sens hockey do you remember most fondly?
Yeah, it would definitely be like the pizza line era. Like I was a big Havlat guy, Hossa, the McEacherns, Arvidsson. Like it's that's probably like the era I loved. Ray Emery. Love hate with Patrick Lalime. But I was upset when they moved on from Chara with Redden, but that was the option at the time. But that was for sure like the glory days for me back then.
Now, what are some of your earliest memories, like moments, or you mentioned you go to a game with your dad every year? Like, what are some of the memories that really stick out for you?
Biggest one was so we have a group chat called the Sens Den, and we went to round 1, game 2 in 2017, the Neon Dion overtime banger.
Nice.
I don't know how Eugene Melnyk came up with the money to strap the roof back down for game 5 there, but yeah, that was electric, absolutely electric. I did a solo trip up to Ottawa for the Alfie retirement game, or Jersey retirement game, and then obviously it's not special to everybody else, especially because it's Leafs. But yeah, like the father-son thing means a lot to me, just to have that, to do that with my old man.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a nice mix. I want to stick to the playoffs though. That game itself, game 2, like they're down early. What was your emotion when Craig Anderson went out to play that puck and all of a sudden it's in the back of the net? Were you Eric Carlsoning all your seatmates there? Where he's cursing out Derek Brassard? Like, what was your emotion like throughout that game? Because even though Phaneuf got the winner, that was a far from easy win. Yeah.
The feeling of just being empty or hollow, just frustrated. It's the feeling of playoffs is like nothing else. And it's like you're on the edge of your seat, pins and needles. So every little mistake, those little things, like even Yakimchuk's turnover there for Evans' goal last night, it's like, no matter what it is, it's always like big energy for me. So yeah, it was very frustrating and challenging time, but pulled it out thankfully, and like coming down from behind 2 goals there. And I mean, I did that again in round 2, game 2 against the Rangers, or was it down 2-0 going into the third period? And then messaged my Ranger friend, said, I've been in this building this year already, down 2 going into the third, watch out. And it was 2-1, 3-1, and then Pajot lit it up and crushed it. So
4 goals. That's absolutely sick.
Yeah.
So now a lot of those players are gone. New players come in. Hasn't been very successful on the ice. 7 years. Are you drinking the Kool-Aid? Like, I'm admittedly all in. I think that they do have a better team. You saw Ullmark steal a win really in the third period there last night. Like, are you all in on this team? If not, what are the areas that need to be addressed for you to buy in?
Yeah, I'm always fully optimistic. I've been drinking the Kool-Aid. Like, this is the year for the past couple. Like, they're going to make that jump. Lost a couple bets to friends over it last year. Not happy. So, I'm having a steady run organization now. It feels a lot more. Like, I look back to see the assistant coaches over the years. We went from 2 for many years now, having 4 under Andlauer, Staios, and everything. It gives me a lot more promise and optimism that they're going in the right direction, not going for the big name players, getting like those steady Jensens, the depth players that are really going to help out where, it's been a little weak over the years, but a lot more comfort, satisfaction. And when you see, a goalie make a glove save, it's refreshing.
Yeah, having Ullmark is very refreshing, and Sens fans deserve that. Who is your X Factor player for this season, Clark?
I'm going to go with Thomas Chabot.
Oh, okay. That's a little different. Let's hear it.
You look back at his career, he's been noted as like the big guy to make those moves, those plays, be the guy. He played the 25 plus minutes year in, year out, relying to be that guy. He's got the guys around him now. It's his first time ever having a former NHL defenseman as an assistant coach. So having that, if we get the stability between whether it's Zub and Jensen, obviously you saw Zub last night. And, I looked at his stat line. He's only been over 50 points once in his career. Obviously injuries have plagued him. So having the stability, depth, and knowing he's not going to have to be that guy. I mean, he has to have the mentality where he knows he's not that guy and he can distribute and not have those ugly turnovers on breakouts. Like the team is a lot more structured. It's got more going for it. Like have the legit NHL coaching staff and support. Like Chabot's got to be that guy where he's, getting back to that 50-point mark, being a bit more stable defensively, and having that, having Baumgartner there. I think that's going to, whoever it is, Jensen Zub's going to help a lot, but having Baumgartner to bounce things off of and a good staff will be, I think Chabot's going to thrive and flourish most from that change.
I think you just sold me, Clark. There's other names that I think are just, hot off the press. You pulled up the list for people watching on YouTube. A lot of people saying Linus Ullmark. We had a Tim Stützle. Our guy last week, Land of the Rising Sens, going off the board with Jan Yannick. And the first two were Nick Jensen, who I think would be perfect partner for Thomas Chabot. We know, though, that last night he played with Artem Zub. It's worked with Zub in the past. Who's your ideal partner to start the season for Shabby?
I mean, looking at the roster and depth chart for the last, since the Jensen trade, obviously we've kind of automatically slotted Zub with Sandy and then Jensen with Chabot. I mean, we didn't expect Yakimchuk to really have this type of production. He's making the high EQ plays, and the way I saw him play with Sanderson last night, because if you're to have Yakimchuk make the roster, and if he's going to play his 9 games, you don't want to be having him on that third pairing with Clevin being another young guy. I'm not opposed to having that stability of Sandy, Yak, Chabot, Zub, and then Jensen play with Clevin on a third pairing. I think that gives that core a lot more stability. And I mean, it's a 9-game chance, but then you have to worry about Hamonic and JBD, both red shots. Then do you not have a forward available for a healthy scratch because you have those two guys there who are both pretty much non-movable. I mean, JBD you can send down by waivers. So, I mean, I want to give Yakimchuk those 9 games, if not more. He's still here.
Yeah, that's my next question. What do you do with Yak, man?
I don't know if I'm drinking the Kool-Aid or overhyping it, but obviously the overtime goal against Leafs was let's not overplay this, but he's just been so stable. He hasn't stood out in a bad way. He's been standing out in the right ways. I mean, the Evans goal turnover last night, that was a little tough, but hey, bounce back, figure it out. Maybe the forwards weren't helping much yesterday with the back checks, a lot of on-man rushes, 3-on-2s, 2-on-1s early on. But it's a big role for him to jump into. So, and I don't want to put him with Chabot because then that doesn't give Chabot the stability of a veteran there. So you need to balance it out, and he can't play with, he shouldn't play with Clevin being 2 young guys. So first line minutes, giddy up, Yakimchuk.
Yeah, I'm with you with how you set it up, Clark, because we've seen all 3 options, right? He played a game with Clevin that didn't really work out. He played a game with Shabbat. I didn't love that either. Now him playing with Sanderson, I love that. But then you get into a situation, are you really going to thrust a rookie defenseman on a top pair where he's going to be going up against every team's best offensive players night in and night out?
And the first game's against the Cup champs.
And he just turned 19 2 days ago.
It's a lot to ask. I'm not saying you can't handle it or it wouldn't be a good decision. I'm just saying it's a lot.
Matty Tkachuk is going to be all over him in the first game.
It is a lot, but hey, maybe he doesn't do it for game one. You give him a 9-game trial, work things in a little bit. You have 2 more preseason games, see how things line up. But at this current point in time, it looks like he's sticking around. Would it benefit to go down and get that experience and not trial by fire? Yes, but I mean, he's earned it. We have to stop just sending guys down just because he has earned it. He has played that spot well, done very well, and he deserves a 9-game chance. It's plain and simple.
And at this point, you're not like, he has to get back to Calgary to play the entire season. I think eventually he will, but it's not like he needs to have those extra games. I think it's almost more beneficial, even if he's up. I remember, I think it was Thomas Chabot in 2016-17, where he came up and he was with the team on road trips. He went out to Vancouver, BC, was on the trip, but still only played in 1 game. He was dashed 2 in 7 minutes against Phoenix, but that's besides the point. He was able to kind of practice with the team, see the pro habits of guys like Dion Phaneuf and Mark Method, Erik Karlsson, what they're doing on a day-to-day basis to have their body ready to go. And I think that Carter Yakupchuk has earned it, like you said, and he should be able to at least start the season. And again, if 1 game doesn't go their way or however they want to handle it from there, I think he should obviously go back eventually. I'm not hammering the table yet that he should stay up the whole year. But a week ago, it would have been a hot take to even say he made the team.
Exactly.
Now we're not letting you say that that's your hot take anymore, though. We need a spicy take from you going into the NHL season, Clark. What's it going to be for the Sens?
Well, one of them did include Yakupchuk, but the first one, the Sens will finish 3rd in the Atlantic.
Ooh,
you are drinking the Kool-Aid.
Have an opening round matchup against Maple Leafs.
Yes. All Sens fans want that.
Yeah.
I don't think any Sens fan is too scared to back down from the challenge of the Leafs in the playoffs, but I mean, wow, that would be
I would have been more scared if the Leafs hadn't won a single series, because then there's the pressure where it's like,
yes,
we then play Ottawa, and if they win again, then it's like, we can go 20 years without winning in the playoffs, but if we play you, we win. I wouldn't have been able to handle that. But now that they have that 1 win, and then they lost in 5 games the next series, by the way, I can handle a series. I think that'd be fun. So you're giving up home ice. You're not saying the Sens are finishing 2nd?
No, not quite. Not quite
really
there yet.
of you.
I mean, I wouldn't have said that a few days ago, but given the Boston situation and net, you never know what.
Yeah, but they got Corpy, Clark. They're good.
Crickets. I mean, we've all counted Boston out for how many years now?
Yeah.
So let's see how that structure works out. But everybody's not sure. It's always the trifecta between Buffalo, Detroit, and Ottawa. We added the notable free agents and trade acquisitions, but we're also getting healthy Norris back, right? Hopefully, getting a full season of Pinto, healthier Shabbat. We're getting these additions that we didn't acquire. They're already with us. It's just a matter the every year progression. It's just a matter of when can these guys all stick together. We're going to have injuries regardless, but I think it's there's a lot more additions within than from outside that are going to benefit this team going forward.
Yeah, I just think the way this team and organization is from top down is very different than what it has been in the past years. So I think that's going to make a huge difference. Final question for me here, Clark. You talked about Linus Ullmark, one of, if not the biggest acquisition for this offseason. How do you feel about him only having 1 year on the deal? This is territory Sens fans are very used to when they acquire a star. But I feel like most fans, I'll speak for myself, this feels different than all the other ones because it feels like this actually would be a fit that would make sense for both Ullmark and the Ottawa Senators.
Yeah, there's a clear path for him to be the starter here for the very foreseeable future. Like a couple of guys in the minors and everything, but you can't bank on that right now or in the near future, whatever it is. He bought a house. I mean, I'm not concerned. Like I'm nowhere near the DeBrincat level or the. I mean, I thought Chychrun would be around. I had a few pops at one of the games I was at last year. I bought a Stutzel jersey 2 weeks prior when I was there for the Forsberg double MCL game. Oof. I was at that game against the Oilers. Got a Stutzel jersey there, and then got a Jacob Chychrun jersey.
No, dang.
I wish I could tell you could throw Addison on that nameplate for number 6, but I don't think he's going to be here.
No. I might have to put a B on the front of that for Belleville, possibly, if he even gets there.
That's hilarious. Clark, this has been awesome, man. We appreciate it. You said you had 2 hot takes, though, so that's a team one. You got any individual ones for us? I can add.
Well,
it
he had
list.
A Yakimchuk one.
Yeah, where is it? Calder?
No, I mean, Norris? Very close because it would
Norris? Hart?
Yakimchuk finish if he plays the whole year.
Yeah,
he has more points than Shabbat this year.
Oh. Well, wait. I feel like for accuracy, you should switch it to points per game.
Okay,
I like that. Yeah, higher points per game. Yep. Okay.
Yak finishes with more points per game than Shabbat. That is as spicy of an ending as we can do. Yeah. For more from the Canadian Yeti himself, you can follow him on Twitter at Canadian_Yeti_. Clark, thanks for doing this, man. Keep repping the Sens down in Southern Ontario. We appreciate it, man.
Do what I can, man. It's been awesome. Thank you for having me on, and let's get ready for the season. Let's go.
All right, Pillsy. Stick taps to Clark for joining us. Really fun conversation with him. And now we get back to our organizational value rankings. And coming in at number 9 is number 9. It's Josh Norris.
Josh Norris, this will be a big year for him as he only played in 50 games last season, but he put up 16 goals, 14 assists for 30 points. Need a little bit more production out of a player making almost $8 million, and he's likely going to be the second line center for this team. A lot of talk about Josh Norris being an X-factor player for the Ottawa Senators, and for a good reason, because if he goes down, we've seen what happens when Shane Pinto has to be elevated in that second line center role. Doesn't exactly meet the standard of what you need if you want to be a successful team as a second line center. So if Josh Norris can stay healthy and I don't think he's going to get right back to 35 plus goals right away, Ross, but I want to see Josh Norris in the high 20s at least here. And for him to do that, I think he's got to play right around 60 games.
It's kind of interesting though, even though he didn't really produce a whole lot last year, 30 points in 50 games, his 16 goals were still top 5 on the team.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have a whole lot of high-end goal scorers last year, but he still had 16 in 50 games. Do we want that number to be higher for the price tag of $7.95 million per season for the next 6 years each? Yeah, of course you would, especially knowing what this guy can do when his shot is clicking. I think he's scoring 30 this year. I think he's scoring 30 on the dot. I would set the over-under at 29.5, and I'd hammer the over.
Well, Ross, especially now that we see him back in his rightful office on the power play. I mean, like, how many goals do you think he lost because he wasn't there the entire time? Probably at least 5 or 6. Like, he was automatic from there years ago, and let's hope he can get back to that, because that's where he thrives the best. Like, his shot is one of his, if not his best attribute, and they need to be utilizing him properly, especially on the power play.
His other big attribute is his consistency in the faceoff circle, which didn't seem to be any different after the injury. He was 10 for 16 in the preseason game the other night against the Montreal Canadiens. Last year, he was 52%. The year before, he was 58%, albeit in a small sample size. In his career, he's 52%. And for a young centerman, it's pretty impressive. He's 25 years old, 6'1", 198 pounds, left shot centerman. Last year, he was 7th, so he's down 2 spots. The year before, he was number 5. He was 5 in 2021 as well. And he started on our countdown in the COVID season at 9. So we're kind of seeing a bit of a half pipe in a way. Like he went down and now he's curling back up. So we want to get him to be right in the mix. And I think with a good season, he could easily move up a few spots again. It's just you have to prove it. And he's been out of sight, out of mind for so long. And the shoulder is such a question mark. He really needs to embrace this opportunity that he's getting to be as healthy as he is. And I think we're going to see him being very motivated. And one thing where, especially when you go see him live, he is a sneaky speed demon. This guy can fly through the neutral zone. So I'm hoping that he can help the Sens in transition.
Yeah, I mean, with Josh Norris, it's always been the shoulder injuries that have been the issue, right? So his skating was never really hindered through the multiple injuries he's had. So that's a positive, at least.
With Josh Norris, we're expecting 30 goals. Is that fair to say as a show?
It all depends on the games played, right? Like if he, honestly, Ross, I think you need to look at the over-under of games played. Like if he plays over 60, I think he can hit 30. If he plays under 60, I don't think he can hit 30. That's where I would set it at.
All right, Josh Norris coming in at number 9 on our organizational value rankings. All right, coming in at number 8, Shane Pinto has jumped Josh Norris. Shane Pinto comes in at number 8, 2-year contract this summer at $3.75 million per season. Last year, he was at number 10, so he moves up 2 spots.
Yeah, and I think, Ross, a big reason why we have Shane Pinto 1 spot ahead of Josh Norris, it's not hugely ahead, but just barely. I think the contract really helps. I was fighting for that bridge deal all along. They got the bridge deal done. I think it worked for both sides. And if you prorate Shane Pinto's points, he only played 41 games last year. We all know why, where those other 41 games went. But he would have got 54 points. Like 54 points in 82 games for Shane Pinto would have been nice. So if he can kind of get back to that production, maybe even get a little bit more production, that would be great. A +9. So he really figured out the defensive side of his game a lot better last season, in my opinion.
Well, he wasn't playing with Alex DeBrincat.
Yeah, I mean, that helps. Yeah, exactly. And if you can keep him in that third line role, especially if the way the lines look today, you have Perron and Amadio as his line mates, I think that third line can do a lot of damage. So I'm expecting a big season from Shane Pinto, who obviously missed 41 games, but then played 41 games straight, perfectly healthy. So the health issues seem to be behind Shane Pinto, which is a huge sigh of relief.
Well, even last year, right? He played 82 at 82. So he has not missed a game in 2 seasons due to injury. Of course, there's the suspension. However, it is a good sign that Shane Pinto's ready to go, because when this guy's on his game, he's a horse. Sneaky 6'3", big guy out there, right shot centerman, 200 pounds, and we've always loved his game, right? He was one of the OG Nodak Sens. No disrespect to Brandon Bochenski or Ben Blood or a few of the other guys that came, Christian Wolanin way before them. But when it came to the Nodak Sens and Jake Sanderson, Tyler Clevin, and JBD, Shane Pinto was the guy out of that group, obviously the only forward, but he was the guy who was second in Hobie Baker voting, and he really impressed each and every night. The shot is electric. Like, it's so funny because Josh Norris has the one-timer, but for Pinto, it's the wrist shot. It's the quick release. It's being able to get his shot off in different situations. That snapshot bumper play on the power play, of course, with Giroux, is such a unique skill set to have on your power play. Not a lot of teams have that high center shot in their playbook. I think we could easily see Shane Pinto explode for his first 50-point season this year.
Yeah, well, like I mentioned, Ross, like if he would have played the full 82 games, he would have finished with 54 points.
Oh, so you're saying 60 we should set it at?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think that's that crazy, especially with bolstered line mates. If he's playing on the third line, he's going to get easier matchups, and he's going to continue to be one of the top shooters on that second power play unit, like that bumper play you referenced. So I don't think it's that crazy that he could hit 60 points if he plays all 82 games.
He was just a smidge above 50% in the dot last year, but it took a whole lot of them. Took over 510 faceoffs last season. He was number 2 on the Senators in plus-minus behind Ridley Gregg, third on the team, if we're counting Tarasenko, who was traded at the deadline. but he just brings responsibility. And that's that. And we talk about Norris and Pinto, so we may as well pull out the stat here right now that we have locked and loaded at all times because it is the most peculiar stat in the National Hockey League going. The Sens record all time 24, 11, and 3 when Stützle, Norris, and Pinto play in the same game. Like, that is a big enough sample size over such a long period of time that it's not a coincidence. The Ottawa Senators, when they have those three in the lineup, they all bring something different. Timmy's got the dynamic skill. Norris has the shot and the defensive responsibility. And Pinto, I guess similar to Norris in a way, but different. You got a lefty and a righty. You can kind of use them in different matchup situations. It just has to happen more often this season. I need it to happen double what it's happened in the last 4 years combined. Where, what's that? 38 games. Can they play half the season together? Is one of my big questions going into the year.
Yeah, and that's the thing, Ross, because the way this roster is constructed, they need a first-line center in Timmy, a second-line center in Norris, and a third-line center in Pinto to ultimately achieve the success that they want to. Like, that is so crucial to their success. I mean, if Shane Pinto went down, that would obviously be unfortunate, but you could slide Ridley Gregg in there, and I don't think it would be too detrimental, but yeah, Josh Norris is the big hinge for this team's center depth.
What's the official prediction for Shane Pinto, or what you'd like to see from him this upcoming season?
I'll say we already kind of referenced it, so I'll stick to it. Let's try to reach that 60-point mark.
All right, coming in at number 8 this year, it's Shane Pinto. He was 10 last year, 9 the year before, 9 the year before that, and 13th the first time that we did this list back in 2020. All right, coming in at number 7, it's Thomas Chabot. Last year, 51 games, had 31 games missed due to injury. Unfortunate. But when he was in the lineup, I actually thought he was pretty consistent and pretty good.
When he wasn't playing with Jacob Chikrin, it seemed like he was able to find success. Although when I went back and looked at their advanced analytics, it wasn't too bad, but the eye test was just brutal. Thomas Chabot is kind of getting back to his old ways. I mean, it's been a while, 2018, 2019, since he had his career high of 55 points. But now that he's kind of more settled into not being this team's number one defenseman and having to play 30 plus minutes every single night, I think it's going to be a big benefit for him. Last season, like you mentioned, only played 51 games, but had 9 goals, 21 assists, good for 30 points. I think, Ross, if he can get back to what he did the year before in 68 games, 11 goals, 30 assists, good for 41 points, like if he can get to the 40-point mark as someone that's not playing top power play and not playing top pair minutes anymore, that would be a success for me for sure. And I think he's a guy that can do it.
He needs to play less. I feel like I'm a broken record
Definitely.
at this point over and over again. But my goodness, he's 27 years old and he's played the amount of overall minutes. I know that it's probably not an easy number to put into perspective for people, but he's 27 years old, Pilsy. He's missed a number of games due to injury.
Yep.
And he's played over 10,000 minutes in his NHL career. This guy has been run into the ground over and over, and it did come down to 23:03 last year. I think the sweet spot for Thomas Chabot is about 21 minutes a game.
Yeah, and I mean, now that he's not on that top pairing with Zub, it's more than likely going to be Sanderson and Zub again. I think he is going to be in the low 20s averaging every night, which is a good spot for him.
And second power play unit last year at the start of the season. He was still on that top power play unit, which I know that we've been kind of hard on him with how he slows the pace down on the man advantage when quick puck movements, how you get the goalie out of position. But he does break the puck out of the zone really well, and he's an easy zone entry machine. So there's a reason why look, it's kind of hard because he moved down 2 more spots than he was last year. And he moved down 2 more spots than the year before. And he moved 2 more spots down than the year before. The first 2 years we did this, in 2020 and 2021, he was our top guy. Number 1.
Yeah. Yep.
Number 1. But he's still 7. Like, he's still in the mix. Now, 4 years at $8 million per season. That's definitely something where you need production out of that spot. Here's my challenge for Thomas Chabot this season. To be a plus player for the first time in his 9-year career.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to put a lot of the blame on Thomas Chabot for most of his career for being a minus player. He was paired with some questionable defensive partners and put in impossible situations, but now he's got the right supporting cast around him that the defensive side of the game does need to improve.
2 of the last 3 years, he's been -3. I don't think I'm asking for too much. I honestly think he probably should be double digits in the plus if things are going in the right direction, but I'll settle for a +5, +7 this season for Thomas Chabot. And I'd love to see him hit 40 points. Like, he got to 55 that one year when he was 22 years old and hasn't even sniffed it since, had 41 2 years ago. So let's get back to at least 40 points. And a part of that is staying healthy. And I think that's going to be important for Thomas Chabot. So I'd like to see him maybe 10 goals, 30 assists type season for Chabot.
Agreed. Yep.
Okay. Thomas Chabot comes in at number 7 on our organizational value rankings that are still in this tier, which is good NHL talent or elite NHL talent. I would say guys who any team would have in their top 6 or in their top 4 on defense. We'll have more tomorrow as we inch our way closer. We'll do the end of this tier, and then I think we're going to have to do a bonus show with the top 3 because I feel like we can almost do a segment on each guy for that one. So stay tuned for that later this week into the weekend. And on Sunday, we've got all 64 that we've done, and we put it in one long feature film, Avatar-length movie. And we will have that premiering on Sunday where all Sens fans can go in the chat and get into the mix here as we approach the regular season. Pilsy, any final thoughts on today's show?
Final thoughts for me is if you guys haven't checked it out already, go check out yesterday's episode. General Manager and President of Hockey Operations, Steve Staios, joined us for a great chat where if I rewatched it this morning, Ross, there's a lot of little nuggets in there if you pay attention. And I think it's even if you have watched it, shameless plug, give it another listen. Look for those little nuggets.
Wow. Okay. I like that a lot. I'll have to go take you up on that. But for today, we say goodbye. For Brandon Piller, I'm Ross Levitan. Thank you for watching, listening, and engaging with the show. This has been another edition of the Locked On Senators podcast. Your team every day.